boys are checking on the anchor, and shortly we'll be diving in to double check it, just because the water is so clear and I really want to. And we have a neighboring boat, and we already know who they are. Right there, it is our friend John, who we met while we were sailing with Barry from Adventures of an Old Sea Dog. Small world, isn't it? The beach is a little bit of a far swim from here, so we are going to drop their dinghy.
Within seconds, we start seeing a bunch of fish, and it's easily the clearest water we've dove in many, many months. So it's great.
There's so many fish just under the boat. There's so many fish like 30 feet down under the boat. Since we're finally back in clear water, we take the opportunity to dive down and check the anchor, which is something that I always volunteer to do because I love being the first one in the water.
It doesn't take long for us to get distracted diving down and seeing all the fish and all the life on the sea floor. There's a lot that's completely different than what we've been seeing in the Caribbean and the Pacific coast of Panama. And it's exciting to see if we're even able to still dive, because we haven't been diving down now in a few months in a row. Right off the bat, we see an octopus, which is fairly rare for us because we don't usually see them in the day. They're usually out at night. And this guy is out and being active during the day, going from spot to spot, and we're watching him while he's trying to hide from us too.
Once the octopus goes into hiding under the corals, we decide to give it some peace, leave it be, and head off to see what other creatures we can find. So far we're seeing lots of little fish in the area just beside the boat, so we don't have to go very far. We aren't seeing a lot of big fish yet, but we're pretty hopeful.
It doesn't really matter even if we didn't see any fish. We're both just super excited to be in the water after so long of not being able to hop in and swim around.
I spot a yellow pufferfish, and its colors are so bright. I try getting Justin's attention so he can come over and film it. Once I finally get his attention, the little fish is so camera shy, it just keeps swimming away whenever he gets close enough with the camera. It's usually pretty hard to get Justin's attention underwater. I can scream into my snorkel as loud as I possibly can, and he can just be 2 feet away from me, and he still will never look over. There's a pretty cool looking wall that surrounds the bay on this side that we're on, and it's really interesting too because it's full of fish, and it also continues on well above the waterline.
Even after just swimming around and diving around for a few minutes, our breath holds are already starting to improve, not close to what they were before, but getting better. And it feels really good to be able to dive down and hang around down at the bottom and check stuff out down there without having to come up for air right away.
We've been snorkeling for a little while now, and we really should get a head start on cleaning the bottom of the boat. But we're so mesmerized by all of the fish and corals underwater that we're really trying to stretch out the snorkel as long as possible, hoping that Captain Kevin doesn't call us back anytime soon.
It's only a couple days shy of being 2 months since we left from Panama City on the start of our journey crossing the Pacific. And during the whole crossing, when we're just sitting on the boat, I mean, we're doing almost no activity whatsoever, getting no exercise. So swimming around now, and even just the walking previously on the other island, like we find ourselves super exhausted really fast. And swimming normally doesn't exhaust us, but this time it's definitely pretty tiring. So it's good to get the exercise and build our strength back up. And hopefully we'll be swimming like we were before in no time at all. Originally, when we were supposed to sail straight through to Australia with almost no stops, we were very disappointed, probably mostly for not being able to dive in all these amazing South Pacific islands. So when we found out we'd have the chance to quickly stop here in French Polynesia, we were super stoked that we'd be able to get in and dive around and actually see some of what we've heard of being the most beautiful waters in the whole world.
The water might not look all that clear in the videos, but in reality, it's one of the clearest waters we've swam in. It's just so sunny out and so bright that the sun rays are piercing the water so intensely that the GoPros are really struggling to capture the water in its purest clarity, and it's looking really murky on video. When we first get in the water, we check out the bottom of the boat, and it looks like it's going to be quite the daunting task. We cleaned the bottom of the hull right before leaving Panama, at the last island we were at, San Jose Island, so we kind of thought the bottom of the boat would be clean since we haven't really stopped to anchor anywhere except for the last few days at Hiva-Oa. But the bottom of the boat has gotten pretty gnarly.
During the crossing, there was a storm that completely took the wind away from the boat, and before we were able to reel all the fishing lines in, the boat had spun in a 360 and wrapped the fishing lines around the prop shaft and broke them off, so that's why we're down here now and having to get our fishing lines off of it.
The whole time that we're working to get the fishing line out of the prop, we have a black-tip reef shark that's circling under us. It's mighty curious, but it keeps a safe distance, so we aren't really concerned.
Of all the boats we've been on, almost every time we dive down and check out the props, there seems to be fishing line wrapped around them. And it's just always a pain to get off, but it's important to get it off to reduce friction. Dun, 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 and the return of Dale's power
Got
suit.
the Power Ranger suit. We are putting earplugs in this time because we don't want any crabs in our ears. Got my gloves, and we
Is that the super scraper?
Barnacle removal duty.
There's lots.
There's a lot of growth from the passage, and we just cleaned it.
I definitely didn't think there'd be much, if any.
I didn't think there'd be any because we haven't really anchored yet.
We'll get them
Moving
off.
the whole time.
We'll evict them.
Get rid of them.
And thanks to all our YouTube followers that like to comment, why aren't you guys wearing earplugs? And that was before I even got a crab in my ear. So this time, definitely wearing earplugs. Safety first. No more crabs, please. I quit. Quit everything. Crabs, bad.
Stole to be in yes, crabs are bad.
Crabs are very bad. Here, Dale, take it.
After after snorkeling for a few hours, we're pretty tired, so we take a break on the boat, grab some water, hydrate, and then it's time to hop back in. So with our tools in hand, we take on the big task of scraping the bottom of the boat.
So being in the water normally really dehydrates you, and with the super salty ocean water and the exercise of swimming around, we find ourselves very dehydrated and thirsty all the time after snorkeling. So after going around for an hour, we make sure we get back on the boat and hydrate really well.
Normally when we clean the bottoms of boats, we just use the hand scrapers, and we're able to do a pretty good job with that tool. But in this case, the barnacles and growth at the bottom are so thick that Kevin's made a stick attached to a really thick scraper so we can get a lot more power when we're trying to scrape the bottom off.
So after that one time in Panama when we were cleaning the bottoms of the boat and Dale got a really bad rash, we're both being cautious and making sure we're well covered up and not letting the chunks that are coming off the bottom of the boat go in our shirts or get on us too much, because it was bad and neither of us want to experience that again. And it's really hard to scrape because his anti-fouling paint isn't as soft as he is intended. So the barnacles are really stuck on there, and it takes a lot of work to get them to fall off.
While we're busy scraping away at the bottom of the boat, we've created a little bit of a feeding frenzy down below because all the little fish are starting to gather and they're all trying to catch the pieces as they drop to the ocean floor.
While we're cleaning the bottom of the boat, the black-tip reef shark comes back to check us out. And one of the dive masters we had in the Bahamas while we were doing a bunch of dives with sharks was telling us that with your fins behind you and your hands in front of you, you're this massive underwater object that's bigger than most sea life. So the sharks are more scared of you than you are of them. So we've never really been that uncomfortable when we're swimming with sharks, which is why we're perfectly fine continuing to clean the boat while he's swimming around.
We got the majority of the fishing line out earlier when we were trying to pull it out, but the little bit that's left is really stuck around the prop, and it's so tightly wound in there that it's making it nearly impossible to get out. And with our breath holds not being what they used to be, it's taking so much longer than it really should to get this line off.
The fishing line is stuck behind the zinc anode, which reduces the corrosion of the propeller and the stainless steel shaft that it's on.
We get the bottom of the boat cleaned off with a lot of time to spare, and also get the line out of the prop, so we decide to go back snorkeling because we were really excited the first time around, and this time before long we find a sea turtle hiding under a shelf.
We're always super excited when we get to see sea turtles because, well, Dale's in love with them. It goes bananas every time she sees them. But they are really cool to see because they can live to be so old and they're always so relaxed and smooth, and they look like they're just enjoying life on the bottom of the ocean.
We end up finding a really big school of bright yellow fish, and it's pretty fun to swim in and around them because they just keep grouping back together and separating, and it's really fun to watch. While we're busy playing around with this big school of fish, we turn around to see our first ever underwater manta ray. We've never seen one in real life before, so we're really excited.
I, of course, managed to find myself another sweet swim through. Wherever I go, I manage to find these guys, and I just love going through them and really getting to put yourself between something and the surface of the water. And with the different lighting, it's always so cool down there, and you get to see a lot of underwater life that you don't typically get to see out on the reef.
You made fun of Justin's crabs, but I have worms.
What is it, Dale?
Well, I just took my bun out after the day of snorkeling and cleaning the boat, and I felt something on my shoulder. And apparently this was in my hair.
Can we put it on a fish hook and catch something with it?
Yeah,
Probably. Ew! It just like
Hey,
opened its
little
face
fella.
and came out. Did you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably starving for oxygen because it's a...
Should we put it back?
Sure, if you want.
Okay. Throw it
back
back
where?
into,
In your hair.
into the ocean, not in my hair.
Well, it came from your hair. It needs to go back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go free.
It's probably get eaten by a fish now.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, check out our Patreon page where you can help support the making of these videos at patreon.com/DJs Dives.
Please subscribe to our channel, like, and share this video.
We have a new video every Sunday morning. See you next week.